One person's trash is another person's treasure. So I wasn't planning on making a video because I'm finishing up my other video for the 2 system builds. I'll link that up there. And I got a computer for free from a neighbor of mine who is cleaning out some stuff. And boy, this is going to be interesting. So here's the computer. This is a, let me pull it up here. It's in pretty rough shape. It's an old Asus system. At first I thought I was going to toss this computer out because it is in pretty rough shape. It is dirty as all hell. There's obviously stuff that's been living in here. As you can see, all the debris right here. It is just god awful. And I almost just told him no, I don't want it. But then I saw this on the side, the specs. And this changed my mind. This is a, as you can see, it's an Asus i7 4770, 16 gigabytes DDR3, a 2 terabyte hard drive. It even has a Blu-ray burner. I checked that earlier. It's a Blu-ray burner, and an old GT 640 graphics card. So, as you can see, that's pretty bad. I'm hoping that if I'm able to somehow get this system and clean it up and refurbish it, I might be able to turn a pretty nice profit on here. This is going to be a challenge, but I'm up for it. So I have my trusty data vac here out in the backyard. There's no way that I am going to be opening this inside the house because who knows what is inside of here. And I'm going to try to clean this thing. It does come with, I believe it has a Windows 10 operating system on this machine, or Windows 7 Pro at least. But let me go ahead and just open this thing up. I took a peek earlier. I'm going to go ahead and show you this. Just open it up. And there's the inside. Ooh, that is rough. So you can see here, power supply is all rusted over. There's some dead roaches there and some spider webs. Dust, all grime and dirt all over the place. I think the first order of business here would be to go ahead and kind of blow out as much as I can, and then take all these components out of here and clean up as much as possible. I think that power supply is probably a goner. I'm not going to bother with it. It's just in really bad shape. I have some other power supplies I can use. Although it is a 390 watt max. It's pretty nice. So I want to see. I want to see what I can do here. First things first, let's go ahead and take some of the components out of here, specifically the RAM. I have no idea if this RAM is actually any good. You can see it's stuck in there pretty good, but I think for a little cleaning, it might be alright. I mean, it is RAM, it is solid state, not mechanical, it's just a little dirty. There's a little bit of dirt on there and corrosion, but I think if I wipe it down, it might be alright. Let's go ahead and unplug all this. Unplug that, and that. Alright, so that's all that. Unplug this. Wow, this thing only has, it's missing really cheap too. They just put the one power connector in there. That kind of sucks. So I might end up having to get a power supply for this machine. I might be able to keep the case. It's pretty bad shape. I have to see how it comes out, but let's go get these screws out of here. Ugh, as you can see, screws are all rusted too. Oh, I hope the motherboard works still. That's one of my worries, that possibly being exposed to the elements for all these years, or who knows how long it was exposed to the elements. I really have no idea. Could have irreparably damaged the board. If that's the case, there's a chance that the motherboard may not work. So the processor could possibly be fine, mainly because it's underneath that heatsink there, and so it's a chance it might have not been as exposed as other components. So the processor can be pretty resilient in terms of being left out and being usable again after neglect in the elements. That's in stark contrast to, let's say, the RAM or this heatsink, which also looks pretty rough. Not sure if I'm gonna be able to clean that up, but hey, you never know. There are a bunch of mosquitoes out here too. Try and bite me. I'm trying to get this done because it rained a while ago. That's a nice. I was gonna say there's a memory check button, so you can check the memory just by pressing that button. Pretty cool. Let's go ahead and unplug this. And let's see here. I know there were some dead roach carcasses under here. Ugh. Oh boy. Oh, that is disgusting. Look at that. It's just stuck on there. Ugh. Let's get that out of the way. I think the best idea for me to do here will be to let's just take everything out. Yeah, let's just take everything out of here. No question. Let's take the fans, all the drives. Let's get the power supply out of here, optical drive out of here. Let's just take everything out. Let's just get it down to the bare minimum here. And go from there. So I'm gonna go ahead and unscrew all this on this side. There are some screws on the other side for the other side of this case. You know what? I'm gonna get my little tray so I don't lose these things. Got my little bowl here, my magnetic bowl to help me keep track of all these screws. Alright, that's all the screws on this side of the case. That's what it looks like. Let's lift this up. It's disgusting. As much as I would love to use this power supply, okay, use this one-handed. As much as I would love to use this power supply, I don't think I'm going to be able to use it. I think I'm probably going to have to get a new power supply because none of the power supplies that I have will actually work for this build, because it requires way more power than the ones I have available. So I'm going to buy a new one. Ooh, big clunk of dust just right there in the middle, just fell down. Ugh. Let's go ahead and let's go ahead and pop this sucker out. There you go. Grab that. There you go. Even that has rust on it. Good lord. Look at that. So that's rust or dirt. It might be dirt. Still doesn't look good, regardless. And here are some screws. This is for the, it's like the optical drive. Cable management is actually not bad, but still, I'm going to need 2 hands for this. So there's the back of the front panel. So you can see it's like a nice collection of dust and dirt and grime. There's the Blu-ray drive, and who knows if the inside of this thing's even clean. Let me unplug it real fast before I forget. Come on. Unplug that. Unplug that. And there you go. That's the hard drive. And there's your case. Wow. That is rough. So let me go ahead and try using my data back on some of these parts here. And I want to try to see it get this cleaned as much as possible before I take it inside. I'm going to have to wipe it all down by hand, I know that. But let me just go ahead and see if I can get some more cleaned up. Whew. Well, I'm getting eaten up by mosquitoes pretty bad, and I've aired this out as much as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and get inside the house before it gets too much darker. And I want to start hand cleaning this entire system here, and get this. I'm gonna take all these fans off of here too. One positive thing I just noticed, this motherboard is actually a standard Asus motherboard. When you look under here, get my rag here, and I'm going to see if I can clean some of this grime off of here. It looks to me like, yep, sure is. If you look here, the front panel connector is a standard front panel I/O layout, so I can connect this to basically any standard case and it'll work, which is great, because a lot of these pre-builts usually have a customized proprietary front panel connector. This does not have that, so I think I'm gonna put this in a new case. I'm gonna do that. So let me get these parts cleaned up. I'll show them cleaned up, and I'll go get the case later on, and I'll show you the build as I go from there. So in the end, there were only really 2 parts that I was able to salvage from that computer. One was the processor, the i7-4770. So I'm going to go ahead and use this processor in this build that I'm putting together. The only other piece that survived was the RAM. I tested the RAM in another computer and it works perfectly fine. This is 16 gigs of DDR3 memory. The rest of the machine wasn't really worth saving. The motherboard turned out to be a dud. It had some bent pins on the CPU socket, which was beyond saving. So I went ahead and got some additional parts together, and I'll go ahead and show you what I'm having, how I'm going to put this build together. So here are the parts. First off is the processor, the i7-4770, and of course the 16 gigabytes of DDR3 memory. The graphics card that I'm going to be using is this EVGA GTX 970 4GB model. Picked this up for about $80 locally. So I got this power supply that I'm going to be using. This is a 80 plus bronze 600 watt power supply. The only problem with this power supply is that one of the pins over here on the 24 pin connector is missing a little bit of the plastic casing, but I've already tested it and it works perfectly fine. So I think this will be just a-okay for this build. I had to order a motherboard online on eBay because I couldn't find anything locally at it for a good rate. So I picked up this. This was an ECS motherboard from a Power Spec pre-built. I've already tested it and it works just fine. There was one little bent pin right there, and I went ahead and fixed that already and tested the board, and it boots up just fine. A little basic motherboard, has no overclocking ability, which is perfectly fine because the processor is a non-overclockable processor. I'll use a cooler that I got from some previous purchases that I did, and the mounting bracket that I'm going to be using is from a Red Devil cooler. It actually fits perfectly with this cooler, and I have all the accessories to mount it and everything, so that should work just fine. Of course, I'm going to be using my standard 120 gigabyte solid state drive as my boot drive and my 1 terabyte hard disk drive as my mass storage drive. I've already tested these drives right here. I had a bunch of problems with several of them, so I went through every single one and I check marked the ones that actually work. The case is going to be this Corsair RGB case that I picked up locally for about $50. It has a nice little RGB LED fan. And the problem I had though with this case is the fact that this motherboard, being a much older motherboard, does not actually have an RGB controller, and the fan here requires a 4-pin RGB controller in order for the lights to work properly. But I have a solution to that. Now in here I have a bunch of spare parts that I managed to put together that will allow me to use the LED lights in this system. First and foremost, I have this little RBG controller that I got from a Cooler Master RBG heatsink, and I didn't use the controller because the motherboard already had the RBG header, so this was kind of useless. But now I have a spare one, and as you can see, it is the standard 4-pin connection. So this will work perfectly with the RBG fan that's right here. As you can see, an additional 4-pin. I also have this LED RBG strip that I have from a kit that had a faulty remote control. As you can see, it is the standard 4-pin connector. So this is going to be giving me a little bit extra light. And then to connect it all, I have this RBG Y cable. As you can see, it has all the connectors that I need in order to make this work. So here's all the connectors for the RBG. There's the case. Here's all the other parts. Let's get this build started. So here's the completed build. For a free computer, I actually got a pretty good deal on this thing. I'll go ahead and post the prices that I spent on the parts for this build. The only things I really needed to get for it was the motherboard, the case, the power supply, graphics card, and of course the drives that I use normally for all my builds. This Corsair case gives it a nice pop of color that I really like, and it should help with selling the system. I plan on posting it for around $550, which is a good price for a mid-range system of this caliber. The i7-4770 processor along with the GTX 970 is a really good pairing for price to performance. This system would be really good for things like esports titles, video editing, and things of that nature. You can even do streaming on it. I didn't have too much trouble with this build. The motherboard that I ordered did have a bent pin, but that was easily remedied with some tweezers. Everything else was pretty straightforward. I cleaned the GPU, I cleaned the CPU, and the case was brand new. The motherboard was from eBay, and the RAM was from the previous computer as well. Of course, the drives were also new, and so this is more of a half new, half used machine. Of course, I'll go ahead and link the listings in the video description below. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave a comment or send me a message and I'll be glad to answer. Till next time.